Hello everyone, I'm back with a new Techtonica video. Today I wanted to chat a little bit about the Kindlevine and Limestone economy. I think it's pretty common for most people that play the game to quickly run into the problem where you'll be producing way more Kindlevine than you need, and in the later stages of the game you'll start to build up limestone unless you have a plan to deal with it. I'm going to give you an overview of what I think the easiest path to take is to get rid of it, but I'm not going to go into too many details on ratios and ultimate efficiency because there are just so many variables right now and not enough numbers available, such as the load capacity of belts, what the speed of the inserters that you're using is, and what your tech level is, as you can research faster assembly and smelting speed and so on. Anyways, going into detail on those would be out of the scope of the video. I'm just here to talk to you about the basics of how to deal with these resources to get started in getting rid of them. The game does have some ways of dealing with the products. I do think that these two products in particular, they just kind of show that the game is still early access. Most likely, I think things will change a little bit once the game is released. For example, right now you start producing Kindlevine before you have a way to actually deal with it. So initially, you really are just going to be storing it, as there's really nothing else you can do. Once you can use Kindlevine extract, though, it is useful to use, but you do have that surplus from when you were storing it in the previous tech level. That means that if you build a factory that is efficient enough to burn through your storage as well as what you're currently producing, you'll eventually run out of enough material to fill that factory, and you'll have to backfill that in, which isn't great. So I do think that eventually things like that will get worked out as the game goes into full release. In any case, I put together this sort of chart that shows all of the recipes that use Kindlevine directly. There are secondary recipes that use up these products, and that's good to keep in mind, but for now, I'm just going to talk about the ones that directly use the product. And I'm looking at these numbers that are set in the timing. I believe that these are all directly your inventory, so this is the amount of time it takes to process in your inventory rather than what it takes to process in a machine. Looking at the numbers, my recommendation is just to focus on using Kindlevine for making mining charges, okay? You're going to need 100 or 200 or so charges to mine your first batch of Atlantum ore. Depending on how efficient you are at using them, you might need more or less. You'll also need 4,500 of them to unlock Victor Tier 8. These are available to manufacture when you unlock the cooling system technology tier, which I believe is Victor 2. You also may want to dedicate a small corner of your factory to making accumulators. They use a fair amount of Kindlevine, and you're going to need probably a couple hundred of these to just provide enough power to unlock the various tiers on Victor. It'll just save you some time if you set up a way of making these automatically. But you can certainly do it in your inventory. You don't need thousands, you just need hundreds. Finally, after you unlock Atlantum ore, you'll want to start making the Atlantum mixture, which will further allow you to use Kindlevine. Well, you can get rid of Kindlevine by turning it into limestone fairly early on, and that limestone can then be used to make biobricks, which I'll talk about shortly.
We've already examined
it's actually a slow recipe, and if you just use that, you'll be making biobricks in a very slow manner. You're much better off making biobricks with mined limestone rather than just using the limestone from smelting. That said, if you scale it up enough, it might be okay. but you start to run into belt load capacity issues, um, and inserter speed issues as well. So I found it for me that it was actually a bit slow to burn Kindlevine, but your mileage may vary. Okay, moving on to Limestone. In the early game, Limestone is best used to just make biobricks. Biobricks are much better than grass at powering all of the things that burn them, namely drills and smelters. Um, and it's relatively easy to set up a system of belts to feed all of your drills and smelters. You just have to keep it in mind when you're creating your layouts. My recommendation, though, is to actually mine all the limestone, as it's a lot easier to set up the mining setup, and it produces, like a single drill produces about twice the amount of limestone in the same amount of time as a single smelter burning the Kindlevine. Basically, you need twice as many smelters as you need drills to produce the same amount of Kindlevine. I'm sorry, limestone from drills. In the late game, you'll start producing limestone as a byproduct of crushing Atlantum ore into a more usable form. You can process the limestone with Atlantum ore to make some, to turn some of the limestone into more Atlantum ore. There is still some limestone byproduct, so it's not a perfect process, but it overall reduces the amount of limestone you're going to have. Plus, it ties it up into your belt system as well, so it kind of reduces in some degree how much you're storing in containers. But yeah, overall, that's a great way of getting rid of limestone once you get to that tier. Before you get to that, though, you're going to want to make sure that you have a solid setup for making silverthorn coolant, which also uses limestone, although far less limestone than the Atlantic mixture. So here are the relevant Shiverthorn coolant recipes, okay? The main ones are cooling systems and conveyor belt Mark IIs. Now, conveyor belt Mark IIs you're going to be using just to make your vase, and you also need a few thousand of these to unlock tier levels on Victor. Cooling systems you're going to primarily be using to make advanced circuits and research cores. You're going to also need thousands of advanced circuits to advanced Victor tiers of research. And of course, you clearly need research cores to advance your research as well. So both of these you're going to be using a lot. So as soon as you unlock these tiers, so tier Victor 2, tier Victor 1, you can start mass producing the conveyor belts and cooling systems. Initially, you can just store them until you unlock the monorail. You can use the monorail to feed all of your resources directly into Victor. Well, I have some final thoughts on the whole Kindlevine and limestone economy. One of them is that when you go to the tech tree over here and the synthesis, biodensity or biodense 2, 3, etc., which makes your biobricks more efficient, or it increases the density. Basically, they take longer to burn. They have more energy in them, I suppose. One of the side effects is that you end up using less biobricks, and because of that, it's less useful as a resource sink. So something to keep in mind. Also, if you end up switching your drills for the electro versions, that will also use up less biobricks. like right now, I opted to not switch most of them just because, as you can see, this is already kind of getting backed up. And if I switch entirely to using the electric drills, I'm concerned that I'm just going to end up with this line just completely stopping. So for now, I kept it going with. It's working fine. As you can see, I'm making plenty of bio bricks, but that seems to be something that's a little white odd. I almost kind of wish that I hadn't done the biodense updates, and in fact, I might end up just turning them off just to see if that works a little better. One other thing that's a bit strange, or I don't know, a little bit. I'm not sure how the games once you deal with this. Basically, when you start digging around, you can see up on the right below that toolbar up there, the UI, that I'm getting limestone as I dig. And after you dig a whole bunch of tunnels, you are going to end up with hundreds and thousands of limestone here in your inventory. And that comes entirely from just digging. And right now, the only way that you can get rid of it, if you don't want to insert it somewhere into your factories, like I've just been making these, and I just start transferring them. So I don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands of limestone I have, but I have quite a few of these containers just scattered around the map because, if you have too much limestone on you, it will actually burden your character and you'll start to slow down. So when that happens, I just make a container, fill it up with all the limestone that I've used from digging around, just dump it there. And it feels bad doing that. I feel like there should be a better way of dealing with that stuff. A lot of games have a destruction button or a way for you to drop resources on the ground. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But right now, it feels a bit weird that I'm also just having to get rid of it by making these containers. Maybe that's fine, but it does feel a bit weird right now in the gameplay, and it seems not optimal. The other thing that's a little strange is that the stacking inserters are great. They can really speed up how you do things. But one of the issues is you have these inserters, which don't stack. The filter inserters and the long inserters, neither one of these uses stacking, which means that for these machines, you kind of have to pay attention to how you lay them out. In this case, I'm using 4 to extract Kindlevine and 2 to extract whatever that's called, the plant matter fiber. And you can see that I could probably maybe change it so that I'd have to extract 3 by changing the layout of the belt. But I'd have to redo this entire thing, and I kind of haven't felt like doing that because I consider this whole entire base to be temporary anyways. But I have an example further over here where I'm a bit of a better layout. That's just based on trying to extract things in a more optimal manner. So I have 4 extractors that are doing the ore, and then I just have 2 that are dealing with the limestone. But in this case, I do have I'm not processing the ore fast enough right now. That part of the factory has not been optimized. I haven't found quite the right ratios for things yet. But yeah, one of these makes way more ore than I people to deal with right now. But it does move limestone along quite nicely. In any case, yeah, it'd be great if we could have stacking versions of the filter and the long inserters. I suspect those are coming eventually. Maybe the devs haven't really talked about it. I don't know. Okay, and those are my final thoughts on the Kindlevine and Limestone economy as it stands right now in early access. If you're still watching, thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one.